Space around the council world looked clean from a distance. Too clean. Ashfall watched the planet rotate beneath them. Pale bands of atmosphere wrapped around a core that claimed neutrality and practiced duplicity like an art form. No weapons platforms visible, no defense grid signatures. That alone told her everything she needed to know. Raven sat opposite her in the insertion craft, body locked into the acceleration harness, eyes half-lidded as data ghosted across her retinal implants. Her fingers moved in tiny, unconscious twitches running code, mapping signal behavior, tasting the electromagnetic noise bleeding off the planet. They're hiding it well, Raven said quietly. Ashfall checked the seals on her armor for the third time. Matte black, no insignia, no serials. Earth denied ownership down to the molecular structure. They always do. The craft's AI cut in, voice flat and sexless. Drop window in 90 seconds. Mission designation. Planet Killer Protocol. No recovery assets. No diplomatic engagement. Objective priority intelligence confirmation. Threat neutralization. Data eradication. Ashfall didn't respond. She didn't need to. She'd memorized the mission brief 6 hours ago, burned it into muscle memory, then deleted it from conscious thought. If captured, there would be nothing to extract. If killed, there would be nothing to avenge. Raven opened her eyes fully and looked at her. You still thinking about Earth? Ashfall snorted. I try not to think about anything. That's a lie. Ashfall finished locking a compact plasma breacher onto her thigh. That's a survival skill. Raven didn't push. She rarely did. That was why they worked. The intelligence packet had been thin. Deliberately so. An alien leader, publicly a reformist, privately a strategist suspected of developing asymmetric biological weapons in violation of every Galactic Council treaty ever written. The kind of threat that didn't announce itself with fleets or invasion alarms. The kind that erased worlds quietly, statistically, while committees argued over causality. Earth didn't argue. Earth sent ghosts. Atmospheric interface in 5, the AI said. The craft shuddered as it cut power and slipped into controlled freefall. Ashfall's stomach rose into her throat, then settled. She lived for this moment, the edge between existence and impact, where hesitation meant death and certainty meant nothing. Raven's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm blind once we breach. Their internal systems don't behave like ours. Think organic logic wrapped in quantum recursion. Can you crack it? Raven smiled thinly. Eventually. Ashfall grinned back, feral. Then I'll buy you time. They hit atmosphere like a thrown knife. Heat screamed across the hull. The craft's skin burned away in programmed layers, ablative plating shedding like dead skin. Ashfall felt every vibration through her boots, through her bones. Gravity returned with violence. Then silence. The craft unfolded mid-air, collapsing into something smaller, darker, forgettable. It struck the surface of the city's underbelly and dissolved into particulate camouflage before any sensor could notice its absence. Ashfall and Raven were already moving. They landed in a maintenance corridor beneath the council world's outer district's metal grown rather than forged, warm to the touch, faintly pulsing as if alive. The air smelled faintly sweet. Wrong. Ashfall's HUD painted the corridor in thread gradients. None active, none obvious. Welcome to the inside, Ashfall murmured. Raven knelt, palm pressed against the wall. Filaments extruded from her glove, vanishing into the living alloy. Her jaw tightened. Oh, she said softly. That's not good. Ashfall turned, weapon already up. Define, not good. They're not just monitoring traffic. They're monitoring intent, emotional markers, stress hormones, decision trees. Raven swallowed. This place is watching for predators. Ashfall exhaled slowly. And what does it think we are? Raven's fingers danced. Code bled into biology. Right now? Environmental noise. Ashfall nodded once. Let's stay forgettable. They moved deeper. Above them, the council world glittered towers spiraling into the artificial sky. Delegates from 100 species debating trade routes and cultural preservation while something rotten festered beneath their feet. The alien leader they were hunting, Veil Tashar, was a respected figure. Visionary, moderate, a bridge between aggressive expansionist and pacifist coalitions. He smiled often. He spoke softly. He advocated for necessary adaptation. Earth intelligence had flagged that phrase 3 times. Raven halted abruptly. Ashfall froze with her, back to back in the corridor, weapons angled outward. I found it, Raven whispered. Found what? A sealed subnet. Old, deep, buried under ceremonial data and diplomatic archives. Raven's breathing quickened. It's not just hidden. It's ashamed. Ashfall frowned. Data can't feel shame. This can. Raven pulled the feed into Ashfall's HUD. The first file opened. Simulations, planetary models, population curves that didn't taper, they dropped. Entire biospheres collapsing in synchronized failure. Species markers blinking out one by one. Ashfall felt something cold settle behind her sternum. Scroll, she said. Raven did. Genetic schematics followed. Viral lattices that rewrote themselves mid-infection. Adaptive kill vectors designed not just to destroy immune systems, but to teach them to fail. This isn't a weapon, Raven breathed. It's an extinction philosophy. Ashfall's jaw tightened. Is it operational? Raven hesitated. Ashfall turned slowly. Raven. Yes, Raven said. Prototype stage completed. Distribution models uploaded. If activated. She cut herself off. If activated, there would be no cure. No warning. Ashfall closed her eyes for half a second. Orders echoed in her skull. Establish the truth of the threat. Eliminate it. Destroy all records. No qualifiers. No debate. We proceed, Ashfall said. Raven nodded, but her hands trembled. Veil Tashar authored this. Personally. His cognitive signature is all over the code. Ashfall loaded a heavier charge into her launcher. Then we're not dealing with a politician. No, Raven said. We're dealing with a believer. Alarms rippled through the living walls, not loud, not urgent. Curious. Raven's head snapped up. We've been noticed. Ashfall smiled grimly. Took them long enough. She stepped forward, violence already mapped in her mind. She didn't hate Veil Tashar. She didn't fear him. She would erase him. Because some threats didn't deserve a trial. And some secrets were only safe when buried in ash. The alarms didn't ring. They listened. Ashfall felt it immediately, the shift in pressure. The subtle tightening of the corridor's living metal, like a throat preparing to close. The walls brightened by a fraction, bioluminescent veins pulsing in a pattern Raven didn't like at all. They're mapping us, Raven muttered, not tracking learning. Ashfall advanced anyway. Every step was deliberate, heel to toe, minimizing vibration. Her armor's suppression field drank heat, sound, intent. The kind of tech that made accountants nervous and generals lie to oversight committees. Can you keep us invisible? Ashfall asked. Raven's fingers blurred. Invisible is a strong word. I can make us uninteresting. That'll do. They reached an arterial junction where the maintenance corridors widened into something closer to a cathedral nave, organic arches rising overhead, data streams flowing visibly through translucent membranes like glowing rivers. Information didn't move here. It lived. Raven stopped dead. Oh no. Ashfall pivoted, weapon tracking the dark. Talk. This is a memory exchange hub, Raven said. Council delegates offload experiential data, hear emotions, negotiations, personal truths. It's supposed to be encrypted, anonymized. And Veil Tashar tapped it. He's been harvesting fear, species-specific panic responses, end of civilization psychology. Raven's voice went hollow. He wasn't guessing how extinction would play out. He studied it. Ashfall scanned the chamber. Where's the virus? Not stored in one place. That would be too obvious. Raven swallowed. It's distributed across biological servers. Living hosts. Ashfall's grip tightened. Define hosts. Raven didn't answer right away. She pulled up another feed. They were vats, rows of them, stretching beyond the limits of the visual field. Inside floated organisms, some humanoid, some not, some barely recognizable as once sentient. Neural filaments threaded through their skulls, spines, thoraxes. Data pulsed through them in soft, rhythmic waves. They're alive, Raven whispered, barely, kept in a suspended cognitive state. Their minds are the encryption keys. Ashfall felt the cold spread. How many? Thousands. Raven's voice cracked. Maybe more. Ashfall closed the feed. Can you extract the data without killing them? Raven looked up at her, eyes bright with something close to despair. The data is them. If I pull it, if I disrupt the lattice, it'll collapse their neural structures. Ashfall exhaled through her nose. Slow, controlled. And if we don't? Raven didn't need to answer. Ashfall made the call. Set charges. Raven stared at her. Ash, we knew this was a black mission. Ashfall said quietly. Earth doesn't send us to save everyone. It sends us to make sure everyone else lives. Raven's hands shook as she began deploying logic bombs into the living network. This is murder. No, Ashfall said. This is containment. The first charge armed with a soft click that echoed too loudly in the vast chamber. The walls reacted. Tendrils extruded from the arches, thick as cables, slick with bioluminescent fluid. They moved with unsettling grace, blocking exits, sealing corridors. They've escalated, Raven said. Security organisms incoming. Not drones, guardians. Ashfall rolled her shoulders. Finally, the first guardian emerged from the wall like a thought-made flesh, six-limbed, armored in crystalline plates, sensory clusters glowing along its torso. It didn't roar, it calculated. Ashfall fired. Plasma tore through the air, superheating the creature's armor until it shattered in a rain of molten shards. It collapsed without a sound, already dissolving. Two more followed. Ashfall moved like gravity had made a personal promise to her. She advanced, firing in controlled bursts, switching ammunition mid-motion as Raven's threat markers updated in her HUD. Left flank, Raven shouted. Ashfall pivoted, tossed a compact grav charge, and detonated it mid-air. The Guardian folded inward, crushed by its own mass, then burst. Raven's voice went sharp. Charges at 60%, but Vale knows. He's watching us through the network. Ashfall smiled grimly. Good, let him learn. The chamber shook as the first data vat ruptured. The organism inside convulsed once, then went still. The data stream faltered. A new presence flooded the network, cold, vast, furious. Vale Tashar. His image resolved in the air, not as a hologram but as a distributed cognition, his face fracturing across 100 surfaces, eyes everywhere. Children of Earth, he said, voice calm, almost gentle. You mistake necessity for cruelty. Ashfall raised her weapon and fired through his face. The image reassembled instantly. Spare me, she said. You built a plague, I built a solution. Vale replied, your species should understand. You weaponized the atom before you understood the cost. Raven snarled, you don't get to lecture us. Vale's gaze shifted to her. Ah, the mind, you see it, don't you? The inevitability. Life multiplies until it chokes itself. I merely prune. Ashfall keyed the final charge. You're done, she said. Vale's expression hardened. Then so are they. The vats began to overload, energy spiking, neural activity surging toward catastrophic failure. Raven gasped. He's triggering a cascade. If the network collapses wrong, it could broadcast fragments of the virus code across the planetary grid. Ashfall didn't hesitate. She slammed the detonator. The chamber erupted in white fire. Living metal screamed as it burned. Data streams shattered. Minds, thousands of them, winked out in a single, merciful instant. The shockwave threw Ashfall and Raven down the corridor, armor scraping, lungs emptying. Silence followed. Raven lay on her side, staring at nothing. We just killed a city of ghosts. Ashfall hauled herself up, offered Raven a hand. We saved a galaxy. Raven took it, but her grip was weak. Vale's still alive, Raven said, and now he knows exactly who we are. Ashfall checked her ammo. Half gone. Enough. Good, she said. That means he'll stop hiding. Above them, somewhere deep in the Council World's shining heart, Vale Tashar was already preparing the next move. And the web beneath had begun to tear. They moved through the aftermath like survivors of a quiet apocalypse. The corridors no longer pulsed with life. The biometal had gone dull, gray, its warmth fading as if the structure itself were grieving. Systems rerouted around the dead network, sealing it off, pretending it had never existed. Raven walked slower now. Ashfall noticed. She always noticed. You're limping, Ashfall said. I'm not. Raven replied automatically. Ashfall stopped and turned. Raven nearly collided with her. Adrenaline's wearing off, Ashfall said. Armor diagnostics don't lie. Raven sighed and adjusted the seal around her thigh where a guardian shard had punched through. It's superficial. Everything is, Ashfall said, until it isn't. They pushed on toward the inner districts where Vale Tashar actually lived. Not the public chambers, not the curated diplomacy zones. The core, where decisions were made without witnesses. Raven's HUD flickered. That's new, she murmured. Ashfall raised her weapon. What? He's letting me in. Ashfall frowned. That's never good. The corridor ahead blossomed open into a private transit hall, sleek, elegant, unmistakably high status. No guards, no alarms, just an open path and a single hovering platform waiting patiently. Vale's voice filled the space, warm and infuriatingly calm. You may proceed, if you wish. Or you may run. I will not pursue you either way. Ashfall snorted. That's generous of him. Raven didn't laugh. He wants us close. Of course he does, Ashfall said. He thinks he can control the outcome. Raven stepped onto the platform. It accepted her weight without hesitation. Ashfall followed. The platform accelerated silently, carrying them upward through layers of the city Ashfall hadn't seen on the way, in gardens suspended in air, waterways flowing in impossible curves, architecture designed to inspire awe instead of scrutiny. He built all this, Raven said quietly, or at least oversaw it. Ashfall shrugged. Monsters like nice views too. The platform slowed and docked. Veil Tashar waited alone. In person, he was smaller than Ashfall expected. Bipedal, symmetrical, almost disarmingly familiar, his species features arranged in a way humans instinctively trusted. Smooth skin, expressive eyes, hands designed for openness rather than threat. He smiled. Welcome, he said. You've caused me a great deal of inconvenience. Ashfall leveled her weapon at his center mass. You caused yourself an extinction-level problem. Veil's gaze flicked to the rifle, then back to her face. You won't shoot me. Ashfall didn't blink. Try me. He chuckled softly. Not yet. You still have questions. Raven stiffened. Ashfall glanced at her. Do we? Raven's eyes were locked on Veil, pupils dilated as streams of data scrolled faster than Ashfall had ever seen. He's broadcasting directly into my interface. No firewall. No obfuscation. Veil inclined his head. You are remarkable, Raven. You see the architecture beneath the lie. That makes you dangerous but also capable of understanding me. Ashfall took a step forward. Back off. Veil ignored her. Tell me, Raven, how many civilizations has Earth destroyed? Raven's jaw clenched. That's not. Colonial collapses. Proxy wars. Ecological extractions that rendered planets uninhabitable. Veil's voice remained gentle. Your species calls it progress. Ashfall snarled. You don't get to equate politics with genocide. Veil finally looked at her fully. Don't I? He gestured, and the air around them filled with projections. Earth's history, unfiltered, burned forests, cracked cities, mass graves on alien worlds Earth never officially acknowledged. Raven whispered, Ash. Ashfall felt the old anger rise. The kind that wanted to solve everything with fire. You think I don't know this? Ashfall said. You think I don't carry it? Veil's eyes softened. Then you understand why I acted. Raven shook her head. No, you didn't respond to inevitability. You engineered it. Yes, Veil said calmly, because waiting would have been immoral. Ashfall's finger tightened on the trigger. Veil noticed. Kill me, and you change nothing. The idea survives. Others will reach the same conclusion. Raven's voice trembled. You already distributed fragments of the virus, didn't you? Veil smiled faintly. Insurance. Ashfall moved in a blur. She slammed Veil into the wall hard enough to crack the living metal, weapon pressed under his jaw. You listen to me, she said low and lethal. You don't get a legacy. You don't get to be right later. Veil didn't resist. Instead, he looked past her. At Raven. She will finish what I started, he said softly. If not today, someday. Because she sees. Raven recoiled as if struck. Don't put that on me. Veil's voice dropped to a whisper only Raven could hear. You already understand the math. Ashfall pulled the trigger. The shot didn't fire. Ashfall's HUD flared red, weapon locked, external override. Veil smiled. Now, he said, we talk about choices. Raven screamed, Ash, move. The room began to seal. And for the first time since Earth had sent them into the dark, Ashfall realized something had gone wrong. Very, very wrong. The room sealed itself with a sound like a closing lung. Ashfall felt the pressure change instantly, microgravity stabilizers cutting out, atmosphere thickening, laced with compounds her armor didn't recognize. Her weapon remained dead in her hands, its systems screaming about external command authority she had never granted. Veil Tashar straightened his jacket. You should not struggle, he said calmly. The chamber is designed to neutralize aggression. Violence here is inefficient. Ashfall dropped the rifle and lunged anyway. The air punched back. She hit an invisible barrier mid-stride, her momentum folded into itself, muscles locking as gravity spiked around her like wet cement. Pain flared white-hot along her spine. She snarled but didn't scream. Raven shouted her name. Veil turned to Raven with what might have been pity. She is magnificent, but brute force is a solved problem. Raven's hands were already moving, fingers slicing through virtual space, slamming brute code against Veil's elegant systems. You're using council authority layers as hard locks, she hissed. You buried yourself so deep they can't even see you. Veil nodded. Visibility invites interference. Ashfall forced her head up. You talk too much. Veil smiled. You destroy too much. He gestured. The chamber's floor dissolved into transparency, revealing a vast hollow beneath them, a sphere the size of a city block, suspended in fields of shimmering force. Inside it, structures rotated slowly, layered like petals around a blazing core of bioluminescent data. Raven went very still. Oh gods, she whispered. Veil's voice took on a reverent cadence. The engine, The final iteration. No living hosts. No distributed fragments. One self-correcting extinction seed capable of deployment through council transit gates. Raven's breath came shallow. You lied. You said the network was insurance. It was. Vale said. This is assurance. Ashfall strained against the field, pinning her, muscles screaming. Raven, don't listen. Just break it. I can't just break it. Raven snapped, panic bleeding through her precision. It's quantum biological. It adapts to intrusion. Every second I push, it learns me. Vale watched her with open fascination. You see? You belong here. Raven's jaw clenched. I belong with her. Vale's eyes flicked back to Ashfall. Then let us test that loyalty. The gravity field around Ashfall intensified. Her armor shrieked warnings. Microfractures bloomed across her HUD. She felt something tear in her shoulder, wet and hot. Ash! Raven screamed. Vale remained infuriatingly calm. You have two options, Raven. You may attempt to shut down the engine knowing it will counter you, slow you, perhaps fail. Or you may free her. But the moment you divert resources, the engine activates its launch sequence. Raven stared at the sphere, then at Ashfall. Ashfall forced a grin through clenched teeth. Don't be stupid. Raven's eyes filled. You're dying. Then make it count. Ashfall growled. Vale's voice softened. This is the burden of intelligence. Choice. Raven's hands hovered, shaking. Then she did something Vale hadn't anticipated. She laughed. Short, sharp, broken. You think this is a dilemma? Raven said hoarsely. You don't understand humans at all. She slammed both palms down. Not on the engine. On herself. Raven overloaded her own neural interface, ripping out safeties, dumping raw cognition into the system. Pain detonated behind her eyes as the world fractured into 1,000 overlapping realities. Vale recoiled. You will destroy your mind. Worth it. Raven spat. The engine reacted instantly, countermeasures blooming like malignant flowers. Raven tore through them with brute logic and spite, burning memories as fuel, sacrificing elegance for speed. Ashfall felt the gravity field flicker. She roared and ripped free as the barrier collapsed, rolling, grabbing her sidearm, and firing in the same motion. This time, the shot landed. Vale staggered as plasma burned through his torso, shock finally cracking his composure. No, he gasped. You don't understand what you're undoing. Ashfall advanced, each step heavy, unstoppable. I understand enough. Raven screamed as feedback ripped through her nervous system. Ash, I can't hold it. 10 seconds, maybe less. Ashfall didn't hesitate. She planted charges along the chamber's supports, hands steady despite the blood soaking her gauntlet. High yield, directional, tuned to shatter containment fields without triggering an early launch. Vale crawled backward, disbelief etched into his face. You would destroy it all? Centuries of work? Ashfall crouched in front of him. You built a bomb out of ideas. She pressed the detonator into his palm. And now you get to hold it. She sprinted. Raven collapsed to her knees as the engine's core destabilized, light flaring into something violent and wrong. Ash now. Ashfall dove, wrapping Raven in her arms as she triggered the final sequence. The world ended. Then it didn't. The explosion folded inward, the engine consuming itself in a silent implosion that tore a wound through space and sealed it just as fast. The chamber collapsed, architecture liquefying, Vale Tashar vanishing into the light without even time to scream. When the dust settled, there was nothing left. No engine, no leader, no proof, just two women lying in the wreckage, gasping. Raven laughed weakly, tears streaking her face. We did it. Ashfall squeezed her shoulder, gentle despite everything. Told you I'd buy you time. Alarms, real ones this time, began to howl across the city. Raven groaned. Extraction's going to be complicated. Ashfall hauled herself up, offered Raven her hand. Let's go erase the rest of the story. The council world didn't panic. That was the most damning part. Evacuation protocols never triggered, no public alerts, no visible military mobilization. The city simply adjusted, traffic rerouted, districts sealed under the guise of infrastructure recalibration, information flows smoothed into something presentable. A lie that had practiced itself for centuries. Ashfall and Raven moved through it like ghosts born of wreckage. Raven leaned heavily on Ashfall as they slipped through a service concourse flooded with false daylight. Her eyes were unfocused, pupils slow to respond. Every few steps she twitched, fingers flexing as if typing code that no longer existed. Ashfall tightened her grip. Stay with me. I'm here, Raven murmured, just a little scrambled. Ashfall didn't like the way she said it. Too light, too careless, like someone trying to convince themselves. They reached an auxiliary transit node one Raven had seeded with a delayed exploit hours ago, back when she still trusted her own mind. The doors opened at her biometric ghost, even though she missed the sequence by half a second. That shouldn't have worked, Raven muttered. Ashfall filed that away under later terror. Inside, the node hummed softly, forgotten by anything that mattered. Ashfall sealed the entrance and immediately began planting charges, not big ones. Surgical, the kind that erased logs, memory caches, and physical traces down to the atomic scarring. Raven slid down the wall and sat hard, helmet resting against cold metal. Ash, she said quietly. Ashfall knelt in front of her. Talk to me. Raven stared at her hands. I can't remember my sister's face. Ashfall froze. Raven laughed weakly. I know I have one. I know her name. I know the facts. But the image, it's gone. Like someone cut a frame out of a film. Ashfall swallowed. There was no training for this. No countermeasure. You burned memory as fuel. Ashfall said gently. You knew that was a risk. I didn't think it'd be this specific. Raven whispered. It's not random. It's prioritized. Emotional density. The engine pushed back by targeting what mattered most. Ashfall clenched her jaw until it hurt. I'm sorry. Raven looked up at her sharply. Don't. Ashfall held her gaze. I won't lie to you. Raven nodded slowly. Good. The node shuddered. Distant impacts. Security forces finally sweeping inward with methodical precision. Time, Ashfall said. Raven pushed herself up, swaying. I can still get us out. Just don't talk to me for a minute. Ashfall didn't argue. Raven closed her eyes. The world bent. Ashfall felt it as a pressure shift, a distortion at the edges of perception as Raven reached out. Not with finesse, not with elegance, but with sheer stubborn will. Systems buckled. Routing protocols tripped over themselves. A private council gate hiccuped into existence where one should not have been. Raven sagged forward. Ashfall caught her. They stepped through. The extraction point was nowhere. A pocket of dead space between mapped lanes, where gravity behaved badly and sensors lied out of habit. Earth's black site ship waited there, cold and unlit, pretending to be nothing at all. The moment they crossed the threshold, the gate collapsed behind them. No pursuit, no witnesses. Ashfall carried Raven aboard personally, ignoring the med team's surprise. She didn't relinquish her until Raven was secured and breathing steadily, though unconscious. A man in a plain uniform waited in the debrief chamber. No rank insignia, no name. He nodded once. Report. Ashfall stood, blood dried black along her armor seams. She didn't bother sitting. Veil Tashar eliminated, she said. Extinction Engine destroyed. All distributed viral architectures neutralized. No recoverable data remains. The man tapped a pad. Civilian casualties? Ashfall's voice was flat, uncountable. He paused, just long enough to acknowledge it. The council reports a catastrophic systems failure attributed to internal corruption. They suspect sabotage by rival factions. Let them, Ashfall said. And your partner? Ashfall's eyes flicked to the medbay door. Alive. The man studied her. Condition? Ashfall met his gaze. Classified. He accepted that. Earth will deny the mission. You were never deployed. The threat never existed. Ashfall nodded. Understood. The man hesitated. Another small pause. The galaxy remains stable. Trade continues. Populations unaware. Ashfall felt no relief. Then we did our job, she said. He stood. Debrief complete. When he left, Ashfall stayed where she was. Raven woke 3 days later. Ashfall was there. She always was. Raven blinked slowly, eyes tracking the sterile ceiling. Did we win? Ashfall leaned back in the chair. Yes. Raven closed her eyes. A tear slid sideways into her hair. What did it cost? Ashfall didn't answer immediately. Some things, she said at last, don't get to be tallied. Raven exhaled shakily. Do I still matter? Ashfall stood, rested a hand over Raven's. Solid, real, you stopped the end of everything. Ashfall said, you matter more than anyone will ever know. Raven squeezed her fingers weakly. Good. Outside the viewport, stars drifted past indifferent, endless. Somewhere, the Galactic Council debated budgetary adjustments. Somewhere else, worlds lived on, unaware of how close they'd come to disappearing quietly in the dark. There were no monuments, no records, no names spoken aloud, only two women, carrying what the galaxy could not afford to remember. And somewhere in the vast, uncaring expanse, extinction waited patient as ever the next time someone decided it was necessary. Thank you for listening, and please don't forget to like and subscribe.